Tonight, Dispatches goes undercover into a child protection unit. What happens when a 15-year-old is left to fend for himself?
We don't have a place, we can't put him anywhere.
We can't.
Sleep on a park bench.
We can't leave a 15-year-old on the street, can we?
We do, yes.
How committed are some of the social workers?
I don't mind sitting here all day and doing all the paperwork and the writing up. I hate going out to visit and stuff.
And what do frontline staff really think about child protection?
I think it's piss poor, the whole service. And no wonder these people's lives are in such a...
For the last few years, John Coffey has worked in television. Before that, he was a family support worker, looking after vulnerable children for 11 years. With concern about child protection at an all-time high, his children's services. They have faced serious criticism in the past.
I'm going undercover. I'm there to expose the reality of actually how this system works. I'm going to get a realistic snapshot. There it is, this is where I'll be working.
He's not worked with children for over 6 years. He should get a induction to the job. But instead, he's led straight into a meeting.
Hello, come in. If you want that.
Hello. Hi.
Another family support worker has also started today. One about the emergency cases which have come in overnight. These children could be in immediate and serious physical danger.
Very serious like this one. So if it's a serious incident like a domestic violence where there could be a fatality, even if it's one, you take that quite seriously because children below...
The assistant team manager is concerned about one child in particular, between a convicted murderer and another member of their family. 10 minutes into his new job, and John is told he will be going on this potentially dangerous visit with a social worker.
There's a high risk. Can we assess if the children are safe now? This is now been escalated. It's now a child protection investigation.
Okay, I'll do you a copy.
We already have most of the information, but we want to ensure the children are safe.
Before heading out, John has a word with the other family support worker, who also started today.
Have you done this whole work before?
No, I was doing maternity assistant in the hospital. So now I'm used to newborn babies and mums, and they're talking all these things. I think, what are you talking about?
There's quite a lot to drop into.
Yeah. I think you go out of here and...
He's been in the building for an hour and a half, and John will now be visiting a family where a convicted murderer has no induction or advice on dealing with potentially dangerous situations. And he's with a newly qualified social worker who has never dealt with a serious...
Well, I'm newly qualified as well.
How you feeling?
I'm nervous. Just because knowing that obviously we're both new. So... Today, ideally, you were supposed to have got an induction programme and everything. I never sort of had an induction either because everyone was so short-staffed.
So normally I'd be in there having an induction rather than doing this?
Yeah. You're sort of left to learn the hard way. And the thing is, I think what I panic about is that, you know, we're in a very serious profession and we can't afford to sort of mess up, do you know?
They arrive at the child's home.
Hello. This is John. He's the support worker on duty today. Hello.
The social worker will assess whether mum can keep the child safe.
So we just want to make sure that you're able to, you know, what would you do to protect the children?
Because obviously I know because he's been put down before for attempted murder and murder. Because he's not well in the head, he can kick my front door through at any time as well. Yeah. And then obviously he runs in with, I don't know, knife or anything. What am I going to do then?
Right, okay.
I've requested for a panic alarm to be put in for the safety of my children.
And where obviously you're not able to protect them, that's what it did.
They head back to the office.
What's the potential risk to those children?
At the moment, she's able to protect the children in a sense where...
After further consideration, the social worker is satisfied that the child isn't in immediate danger and will now report back to her manager.
Okay.
We just take this information back, see whether she wants us to write it up or how we're going to be dealing with it.
Well, that's a pretty heavy start to first morning.
Oh, this is nothing.
In In the afternoon, John encounters his second potentially dangerous situation, but this time it's in the office. A father has attacked his wife, killed himself. John and another family support worker go into a room with 2 exits because the man could potentially become violent. John's co-worker needs to inform the man that he is banned from contacting his family.
We do have a few police for violent incidents of assault.
Yeah.
One abortioned for. The other we know you're on bail for. I think some of the conversations have been highly inappropriate.
Yeah.
In no way should an adult be having a conversation with a child about killing them.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
If there's any further incidents, we'll need to consider child protection measures.
It's not going to happen.
Okay, that's good.
It's not going to happen.
John's co-worker explains how violent this man has been towards his wife.
Is he very violent?
Strange things, stalking in cars, breaking in, cutting her underwear.
And he's assaulted the wife of the partner?
Yeah, in front of the children. He broke in and grabbed her from behind and smacked her around the head. And he wants to keep coming in and stating his case.
If this man approaches his family again, social workers will take steps to have the children removed. He's been involved with 2 potentially dangerous situations. The job seems much tougher than when he was a family support worker 6 years ago.
The nature of the cases that I've confronted today were more extreme than the ones I've encountered in the past. You know, murder, it was drugs, you know, alcohol, everything that you imagine was suddenly sort of thrown at you today in various guises.
Over the next few days, John gets on with being a family support worker.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
He should only be asked to do straightforward support work, as he's not a qualified social worker. On his 4th day, he is taking part in a class for families that need parenting guidance. John and his co-workers will make assessments on how these parents interact with their children. The other family support worker feels she hasn't had a proper induction either and feels unprepared for this responsibility.
What?
Joke. They just presume that you know what you're doing. All I wanted was to come here and they just say, your first week you're going to go through everything. And that's fine.
Every 2 weeks, John will meet his manager to discuss his work. He believes his induction has been very poor. Later, he decides to raise this with her.
I mean, do you sort of worry about new staff as well? I know that myself.
We do. Our induction processes are crap. We know that. That's got to be sorted out. Because what we need to do is make them proof against a really difficult week. And what they are, at the moment, they're not.
Child protection experts have told dispatchers that family support workers should spend at least a month shadowing experienced staff. At the end of his first week, he's given a case involving a teenager. The managers expect him to work alone.
John, to call, introduce yourself and arrange an appointment.
John has never had sole responsibility for a case before. The teenager has potentially serious behavioural issues.
So, and what's the basic need? He needs to get back into education, or?
Very challenging behaviour. We suspect he's been bullied as well.
They then tell John this child may be involved with a gang that has been linked to allegations of rape.
Basically, a bunch of boys, and they do an initiation with the girls. They gave them a choice, either getting beaten up or getting raped.
What age are these?
The girls are between 11 and 12.
So read the file, but for now, just book your visit.
Yeah.
John's been in the job for just over a week and arranges to see the family. His role is to help relatives keep the child safe.
Hello, how are you?
He won't be involved in investigating the rape allegations, as this is a police matter.
You're worried about his future?
Because I think somewhere along the line he's going to get into trouble. He belongs to a gang.
and he does, I don't know if you've heard of it, he does tagging. It's a kind of graffiti.
The child is upstairs and refuses to come down. He isn't obliged to meet John.
Let him know that I've been here. I'm looking forward to meeting him. And
Surrey has categorised this as a low-risk case. So it could be up to a month before John makes another visit, even though he didn't meet the child on this one. He then helps social workers in the duty office.
I will need dates here for all these cases. We agreed.
This is where emergency cases come in.
No. It's because I'm not in this office. I have to keep coming back and forth.
Trying to grasp a complicated system for keeping track of cases, John asks for help, but the administrator doesn't take time to explain it properly.
So you say that we're 14, right?
No, I've just told you. 3, those 2 are not. I've forgotten to take it off the list.
After being left confused, John confides in a social worker.
I'd like to know what's going on. I don't know what your systems are. I need to know, and I'm not. It's like, shut up.
Yeah, no, it's a classic nightmare, John. I'm looking for a new job, needless to say. But you're a new worker, and you need to know how to do it.
She goes on to reveal why she is leaving.
I'm just burnt out, so it's not, do you know what I mean? It's the nature of the job. As soon as I got here, I got dumped on some shitty cases, just not given a lot of support. One of them was removing a baby from a mum who, throughout the whole pregnancy, drinking alcohol, cocaine, crack cocaine, so you know what I mean? Significant harm to this baby. It's just the pressure, you know, there's never enough workers in the team, and that's just the nature of social services, I think.
Government inquiries into social services have found problems occurring due to a shortage of frontline staff. That staff are stretched.
I try to avoid using the word chaos. I don't think we're chaotic. I think we're sometimes extremely busy. That can give the impression of chaos, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't feel especially safe, even to us. But I think most of the time, when people are racing around like blue arse flies, they do actually know what they're doing.
One social worker breaks down in tears. She has too much work. She's worried about keeping on top of it all.
You're going to come back later tomorrow, later on?
I don't know what I'm going to do at the moment. I'm going on this visit with Lois, so I'm going to see how I go. I might go home, I might stay, I don't know what I'm going to do at the moment. I like tick going out to see somebody rather than fucking crying.
Back at home, John is well. 3 weeks later, the same social worker has been given even more cases from a manager.
She's trying to give it to me, don't you know, around. So I keep on, I can't take anymore, I can't take anymore. You can't take anymore. She was not happy. You've got to, you have no choice, I've got no to give to. I can't take anymore.
What's the solution to this long term? You can't keep working like that.
I'll go sick.
Another social worker tells John she would rather sit at her desk than visit families.
Do you enjoy doing the visits?
Depends. If it's a smelly house, no, not really. Got one house and that I've got to check bedrooms because one girl, she's got bedwetting problems and mum doesn't change the sheets. So I've got the duty of checking out. I mean, it's bad enough, I have to sit in the house. When I come out, I stink of urine. So it is really difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't mind up. I hate going out to visit and stuff sometimes. There's only certain families that I do look forward to seeing.
This social work reservations for home visits.
She said, it'd be great if me and you could co-work on everything. She said, you could go out and do all the practical stuff and do the visits, and I could just write up stuff. She said, because I hate doing all the practical bits. I was like, She said, really, the work of a social worker is to just write reports and make referrals to different organisations. I was like, when does the work actually get done there? Speaking to people, everything else seems to just be people typing on computers.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself.
Yeah, it's like, no wonder these people's lives are in such a mess. I think it's piss poor, the whole service.
Next, Surrey gives John a serious child protection case he isn't qualified to oversee.
He could kill her.
He's at the point of desperation. If he's going to kill himself,
he could kill her.
Yeah.
John Coffey is undercover as a family support worker at Surrey's Child Protection Services, living because of stress.
It's a classic nightmare, John. I'm looking for a new job, needless to say.
And a manager has admitted that he's been dropped in at the deep end.
Our induction processes are crap. We know that.
His managers have assigned him children with serious issues, which he hasn't been trained for.
And I'm running like a blue-ass fly at the moment. I feel like you just don't get time to catch your breath. And that's not the way to do a job like this. We're dealing with vulnerable people, and this is not the way to do a job like this. No time, no support. I can see why people get ulcers doing this sort of work.
As a family support worker, John should oversee children who are at low risk of harm. Government guidelines stipulate that only qualified social workers oversee children who are at significant risk and reach the critical category of child protection. But John's manager claims Surrey haven't always followed the guidelines.
There have been family support workers getting involved with child protection situations and taking responsibility for them and the rest of it, in consultation with the rest of us, but still it's a tough old thing. And it's no good me telling you any different, because you'll chat to the others and you'll find that out.
One of John's cases is heading towards child protection. John attends a meeting with the child's mother and her teachers. There are concerns that the mother's violent partner is a threat to the family. John's manager tells the mother that they will step in and take action if she continues to see the man.
So we think he's very dangerous, and I want to leave you in no doubt that unless you take a pretty firm line on this, and a consistent line, and you support the girls and prioritise their needs, we will take this down the child protection route if we need to do.
Outside, John and discuss how this man is a continuing threat to the mother.
It's just one of those situations where suddenly he just goes, he loses it.
He could kill her.
He's at the point of desperation. If he's going to kill himself,
He could kill her.
Yeah. Or take one of the kids and
Yes.
to hurt her.
Yeah. I think she probably needs a letter from me to confirm some of that around our assessment of the risk.
Even with this threat, the case hasn't reached the critical category of child protection yet. Over the next 2 weeks, he tries to arrange a home visit. But then an urgent call to John's manager is made by the girl's teacher. The child has been in a fight with a younger relative. She has been left with some injuries. The police have been called. John asks the manager if this case has now reached child protection.
So has it become child protection now? Does that mean it's pending?
What it means is that they've just contacted the police and us, and we've got to look into it. So it is child protection.
In a meeting with another manager, John is told this child should now be overseen by a qualified social worker.
I don't actually see you holding on to this case very much longer. I think it's always bound to go to a social worker very quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And you're very new. It's a big ask, this. But,
A police officer and a qualified... However, John's manager asks him to do the visit.
It's a difficult piece of work, and it is a qualified social worker piece of work.
Yeah,
So, just bear in mind you're doing it under my supervision, and if you feel the least bit out of your depth, please say so.
All right, thank you.
Hello.
John visits the girl with the child protection police officer. Without a qualified social worker, it will be down to John to judge whether the child is in danger.
Mom, we're at a meeting at the moment, wait. Mom, I need to go home.
The child becomes increasingly angry.
I'm going. Mom, can you come in for a bit? Please? No, can you just come here, Mate? I'm going. I'm going home.
A relative reveals that the child has threatened people with knives.
She held a knife over my daughter in bed the other day because she wouldn't do her hair or something. She took the knife out and she went into my daughter's room. I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
At the first opportunity, John tells his manager, who's promised to supervise him, that the girl is violent towards her family.
Morning. There's a lot of violence going on in that household.
Is there?
Yeah. And that girl is just out of control. And she was kicking the door in, banged the door and left. I was a bit surprised at what I met. We actually said that this is vortex of domestic.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Maybe nice sit and have a
No,
chat.
I don't know what to do either. I will when I can.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd...
But yes, good. Get it written up and
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay.
She tells John he needs to investigate this family further. He will have to write up a 40-page assessment. Then things start to escalate. Is now out of control.
Taking weed, she's out, not only she's abusing drugs but also alcohol, out wandering the streets, gone 11 o'clock at night, won't come in, completely out of control basically.
They say the family home is covered in animal feces.
It's full of dog's toilet, cat's toilets. She called the RSPCA to remove the animal. She said they can't live like that, but the children apparently can.
John and a social worker head out on an emergency visit to the family. The social worker has a quick look round. She finds no feces in the house. But it becomes clear that Mum is very distressed. She has been attacked by her daughter.
I've got to the point now where the next time she hits me, I am phoning the police.
Every time you don't phone the police, you're just giving them a message that it's okay not to have those boundaries. But that is something you have to do.
Bye bye. Oh, the cat's waiting to come in.
With the mother unable to control her, there are now major concerns for the girl's safety. Children at risk of significant harm can be placed on the Child Protection Register. Before her name is added, John will need to complete a report giving reasons why she needs protection. It is a very complex piece of work, and managers have asked a social worker to help him. But she says she is too busy.
I feel like I've got a first aid kit and I'm being asked to do brain surgery.
And I did have a discussion with, I said, you know, I don't mind helping. John comes to me and asks me a question, or where's this form, where is that? But I said to Andrew, I don't have time to sit down with John and do the report, I just don't.
Government guidelines are clear. A report like this should be led by a social worker. John feels completely out of his depth. So later that day, he asks another social worker for help.
I don't know what I'm doing. Do you think it's fair that I'm doing this?
I think that is fair. They are going to expect you to pick out the positives in the family, the areas of concern, what the risks are, and kind of what you think Mum needs to be doing to address those risks.
I think you'd need maybe to work in this team for 2 years before you undertake a piece of work like this. How can I make judgments like that? I don't know enough about the family.
But you are being asked to make that judgment. And by the fact you're taking it, you as the worker are saying that you think these children are in sufficient need of protection. That is why you're taking it, because you are going to say they should be subject.
I've been told to do this. I don't even know what to agree or disagree with.
The pressure of this case is giving John sleepless nights.
Waking up between 4:45 in the morning and just thinking about the job. And it's like the pressure of the job as well. And I've not really had this before. I mean, I've had, you know, times in the past we've woken up, you know, for short periods of time, maybe when something's happening, but this time it's quite constant. Yeah, there's all this sort of work that's going on. There's all this stuff buzzing around your head. You know, it's 4:20 in the morning, and I'm sitting here and thinking about it, and you know, doing this, and it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
To complete the report, he visits the family and manages to catch the girl during a moment of calm. John will have to make potentially life-changing recommendations about this child, although he is not a qualified social worker.
So what you're saying to me is you're like two different people at times.
Yeah.
So if I was to ask you to describe the two different people, who they'd be?
Noisy at home.
Yeah.
And quiet at school.
Cool. So you're noisy at home, quiet at school?
No, because I'm sometimes mouthy at school.
Sometimes mouthy, okay.
John finishes the report and recommends this girl's name should be added to the Child Protection Register. His manager admits that he shouldn't have been responsible for such a serious report.
You've done the report, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I have.
Not as much as you'd like?
Maybe, yes. Yes. People are very busy, so...
I know.
People are terribly busy.
Make no bones about it, John. This is not a family support work task. And, you know, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have been asked to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Keep telling me that.
Don't eat dirt over this. You know, if it's not a good report, it's not your management problem, for which I will be quite rightly called to account. So that's fine.
A week later, the girl's name is added to the Child Protection Register. And finally, a qualified social worker is assigned to the case. John's colleague, who started at the same time, is also dealing with difficult cases. A teenage girl has just tried to commit suicide and has been rushed to hospital.
It's too much for me, I can't stay. I didn't come here to do this. I can't cope with it. I don't know what to do for the best people.
You don't know, you can't...
I don't know what I'm meant to do. I came here to help people who needed some support. This is nothing like that. It's too much, John. I don't think it's way too much.
Moments later, he catches up with her in a back office.
I really didn't think we'd be doing things to this level. I thought this was the difference between us and social workers, but there doesn't appear to be much difference apart from they do really detailed reports and they do all the court stuff. And all I want is someone to sit with me for half an hour. What? I just don't know how you even manage this. We've had no support at all.
John and his colleagues have another problem. The paperwork which goes with every case means they are spending more time at their desks rather than visiting the children.
The paperwork, it's overwhelming, really. For every hour you spend in client contact, and that's with the child, you'll spend 3 or 4 hours doing paperwork around that. Shocking.
To illustrate the amount of paperwork, John collects all the forms he would have to fill in for just one case.
There's these two, there's 1, and there's this 2, and then there's 3, 4, 6. That's 80 pages in those 2. I imagine there's probably, I don't know, 40 there, another 10 there. So what's that, 100 pages?
John finds a social worker catching up with her paperwork. She would rather be spending time helping children.
So seriously, I can't do all of it, you know, and I get kind of pissed off at that, but I don't have the time to do the thing. You know, these children are on a child protection plan. You know, visiting a child for an hour every 10 working days doesn't keep them safe. You know, it's not going to do anything. And I would love to do so much more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd do more work and more kind of time with the young people, but I can't.
All forms are stored in case files. Many forms are duplicated a number of times, so a lot of the files are bulging at the seams. John would like to make one of his files more manageable.
I've got a few that are really bursting.
So what you need to do,
Yeah.
there is a file you can put it in business support to do as a job.
Fill in a form to have all the forms that we filled in before moved somewhere else.
So he heads to business support to ask for the form.
File transfer forms. We've got a form to fill in for file transfers.
But then it gets even more complicated.
That's it. It looks like it's written in Russian. Oh, it's incredible. All I want to do is just reduce the file.
But we get really told off if we don't do it correctly.
John follows her into the corridor, where she explains she has also become bogged down with the bureaucratic system.
This case frustrates you so much, doesn't it? Because you don't understand the thing.
you say you don't understand it, they refer you to a totally unworkable procedures manual. It's written in a language which is totally alien to most humans.
All reports have to be completed within rigid timescales. Deadlines are meant to ensure that information about children at risk is given. However, a business support manager is critical of the system.
I think they're missing the picture of why we're actually here. Rather than ticking all the boxes and saying, yeah, we've done this paperwork, that paperwork, they're actually forgetting about we're here to help families and children.
Oh, we spend so much time in front of the computer writing reports. It seems like if you write the report, then everyone's happy.
Yeah, you've ticked the box. No, because I've not seen them for 2 weeks because I'm too busy doing all the administration.
Inspectors penalise councils for late reports. John's manager says she thinks they're focusing in the wrong place.
These assessments have to be done in those timescales, and that's a performance indicator. And there is absolutely no performance indicator. So you could actually write on the assessment, cream buns, cream buns, cream buns, cream buns, all the way down there. And if you could persuade a manager to sign it off, that's it. So that you get your tick for performance, but actually you've done nothing meaningful.
Inspectors use performance indicators to evaluate child protection teams. John's manager tells him that in the past, Surrey has manipulated the inspection system to improve their rating.
I remember one of the old area reviews in 1999, I think it was, 1999, when we got a glowing report and we all sat round and looked at each other and said, it's not right. But you know, there was a great deal of PR put into inspections so that we didn't get bad inspections. What do we get now? We get bad inspections.
We've had a bad inspection with PR.
Well, you manage it. You make sure that the inspectors go to the teams where things are right. You make sure that the files that are easily available to be looked at are easily available to be looked at.
Oh, so I'm going to choose those there.
You wouldn't leave on a desk something that was going to be dodgy, that you might leave a cabinet locked if it had got grotty stuff in. You know, it's difficult to email that tells anybody to do that. That's a lot of what was going on, a lot of manipulating of the stuff.
Next, a 15-year-old is left to fend for himself.
We don't have a place, but we can't put him anywhere.
We can't.
Sleep on a park bench.
We can't leave a 15-year-old on the street, can we?
We do, yes.
John Coffey is undercover as a family support worker in Surrey Children's Services. He's been there for 2 months. A 15-year-old boy who's been known to Surrey for many years comes in to speak to his social worker. But the placement broke down. He says he has nowhere to go.
So what's the issue?
Well, I've got nowhere to stay. And I was in the care place and I got told to leave, so I went to my mum. I'm not allowed to stay there. I've been in my grandhouse the last few nights.
Right.
But I don't want to stay there no more. It's not suitable for me to stay there anyway.
But you can go back to your granddad's. You haven't left there yet, have you?
Yeah, I've left there.
You got a bag?
No, my mum's got it at her house.
Right. OK, wait there a second, OK?
John asks for advice from a social worker.
He's got nowhere to stay, he said.
It's just to say to him that at the moment there is nowhere for him to go, so he might want to start exploring friends, because it's likely that we will have nowhere for him to go tonight.
What's his default bed for the night?
Well, it could be a friend.
No, but what if, well, from our point of view?
Well then, we won't, if we don't have a place, we can't put him anywhere.
Well, we can't,
sleep on a park bench.
We can't leave a 15-year-old on the street, can we?
We do, yes. We shouldn't, but we do. If we've got nowhere to put them, we can't put them anywhere.
And we're not legally bound to house
We are, but where would you put them? If you haven't got anywhere to put them, where can you put them?
Hotel, if nothing else.
Can't. Hotels will not take children of 15.
Oh, true.
They struggle to take children of 16. And a lot of children that we place in B&B at 16 kick off, and now a lot of B&Bs won't take them either.
John has the difficult job of telling the boy that it's unlikely they will find him somewhere to stay tonight.
They've been looking for other foster placements for you, haven't they? I mean, you know, they haven't come up with anything yet, so there's nothing at the moment. What we need you to do is start looking for somewhere you can stay as well. Right. Well, about friends. Okay, because I know they're looking here, but if you're going to have to look as well.
I haven't got anyone.
All right.
John sees the boy out.
So we'll speak to you later, all right?
Later, he's told the boy went back to his granddad's.
When my colleague said to me that that child could end up on a park bench, and she's had children that have been on park benches in the past, it sort of sent a chill through me. You know, we sort of tend to believe that somehow there's a net that catches these kids, and there isn't. And what's emerging is that there's this age group from 13, 14 up to sort of 16 who just...
A few days later, the family support worker tells John that the boy has left his granddad's and is fending for himself.
So what actually happened to him?
He's staying at friends' houses and stuff. There's still no foster placement for him. Like, we're lucky nothing's happened, really.
What could happen?
Well, he talked about his self-harm before he talked about suicide.
God, it gets worse.
It does get worse. And he started exploding. He said, I really feel social services let me down. We have let him down. He's been out of school for a whole year, unnecessarily so. A whole year. And, I mean, I know it's only been a week since he's been out of his foster placement, but even that, a week is too long. But he just needs someone to say, you are worth, you know, looking out for, and I'll help you.
John has been undercover for 12 weeks. The daily pressure of the job is taking its toll. He just can't fit everything in. He grabs a quick bite to eat before an appointment with a child.
Job's too much. It's not doable. I was given 2 extra cases yesterday. I'm going on a visit to see them for the first time tomorrow. Tomorrow's wiped out because I'm collecting someone from Portsmouth and bringing them back and escorting them back to Guildford tomorrow, so that's the day gone. People says that do manage the job, but they're working at weekends and they're working late into the...
In 2009, Surrey Children's Services closed hundreds of cases. They said this would help them concentrate resources on those children that really need protection. John's manager explains that in his team alone, they have managed to close a third of their cases.
In the beginning of the summer, we talked about getting our 300 cases down to 200, and that would be manageable. At 200, we can now see we still don't have enough staff in the system, and we've got to go down even further.
So I suppose my question to you is like, is there a baby P there?
Ah, yeah, but if there's a baby P on a closed case, there'll never, ever be a problem. If it's closed, and we closed it with good reasons at the time, and it's shown in the closing summary that the reasons were good, then it won't matter. The real problem is the case sitting at the back of your drawer that isn't being dealt with but is technically open to you. And if one of those goes off on you, God help you. Those are awful.
John asks an assistant team manager whether closing cases will put children in danger.
Now, whereas a child would have got a service, they probably won't. And also they're going through cases that have been open, whereas before we might have gone another mile down the road to try and get them engaged. We won't be doing that now.
And does that put kids at risk?
I don't know really. I don't think it does. I think we're robust and, you know, sort of sort ourselves out. I'm sure it will put some at risk.
One child protection social worker who is employed by Surrey claims that closing cases is putting children in danger. His identity is disguised for fear of losing his job.
There are many cases that I have heard from various colleagues, these children. Out of my own caseload, the amount of cases which are being closed inappropriately would be about a child of 14 was living in a family where there was chronic neglect. Management felt that it was not appropriate to continue to support this family or child. Therefore, the case was closed. In my opinion, this particular case should have been left open. There should have been support.
With resources already stretched, John finds out that more cuts are on the way. The team has been invited to attend a meeting with the senior manager from Children's Services. There are rumours they are about to face up to 30% cuts.
Is it the cuts of about up to 30% the figure is?
Well, we don't know yet because the spending from government hasn't been announced officially. That the reason they don't want to say anything is because with the election coming up, they're having a bit of a panic as to when to announce this because, you know, a Labour government doesn't want to have to announce.
But it's going to be big though. It's going to be big.
It's going to be big. The indicative is going to be between 20 and 30% cuts in Surrey.
The senior manager goes on to say that closing success.
And I looked at the caseloads actually, they were so much better than when I came in, was it July?
They might appear better on paper, but workers don't feel that they're better.
But they are better, because you still had,
Your paper, on paper and a feeling is very different. On paper I had more last time, but I still can't manage with what I've got. So I don't want you to think, well, because it's low, it's fine. The team are still struggling with that.
It's significantly better than it was.
John catches up with the social worker after the meeting.
Every year there's a cut to the budget. Then every year they're around to nearly April and there's no money. So
And what's going to happen here? Don't know.
No.
6 weeks since the 15-year-old boy came into the office. John is told that he got into trouble with the police and was sent to a secure unit for a short period of time. Now he's finally been placed in a children's home. John and his co-worker are settling him in.
Where are you hiding? Cool. Oh, that's nice. Very nice. You might not like this bit for that bit.
3 days later, the boy phones his family support worker. He finds her crying at her desk.
What's happened?
He's crying his eyes out. I said I'm going to run. And he's crying and saying, can you come now? And I can't because I've got to do something. They told me what to do. Would be nice. I'd know what to do. Instead you make a million calls and you don't know what you're doing anyway. I don't mean to get upset here. God, the second time I cried. I've only been in 3 months, I've cried twice now. That's crap. No, I think I care too much and I don't think you're meant to care. No, you should care.
I think you just care too much.
No, what's it worth? This is not worth it for 18 grand, I tell you. What have I got for 18 grand? It's not worth it for double that, is it?
John continued working for another 2 days and then handed in his resignation.
We're going to have this service up and running the way that we think it should be run. It's going to have to be paid for. And this isn't just the problem of you know, the department that runs social services. It's not the problem of the social workers. This is a national problem. These are our most vulnerable children, and you know, we're faced with the question: do we want to look after them in an adequate way? And if we do, we're going to have to pay for it.
Dispatchers approached Surrey County Council. We gave them a detailed account of John Coffey's investigation. We asked for their response to the serious issues he uncovered in his 3 months there. We made it clear that members of staff and clients would not be identified. Surrey's Strategic Director for Children's Schools and Families, Andy Roberts, told us that the council was not able to make a statement on or respond to our findings without a preview of the programme.